Well, a very good afternoon and welcome back to In the Huddle, our 17th show. Every time I say the number, I just can't believe that we've done 17 shows. I'm Vance Palm with Stan Green, Trevor Horn, and Greg Kerr. What a pleasure to have you with us, and it's going to be a big show. Only us four today, no special guests. We're going to just get after it, us four, and we might not even take a full hour, kind of hit the road running, and we'll see where it goes. Thanks to our director, Alex, being here as always. First quarter, let's start off, Stan, with... I believe it's as big a news as we can have on a show like In the Huddle because it has such long-term ramifications and it really stretches across the broad spectrum of competition in the central section. But we're going to talk realignment proposals, and it's all yours.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so every 4 years you get to submit where you want your leagues to be and what you want them to be. Sometimes it gets pretty contentious. This year they were due on the 10th, and this Thursday on the 17th is when they will read them out. And at Kingsburg High School, they'll read them out to everybody for everyone to see kind of where the proposals are. Generally speaking, we just submit for what affects us, and other schools submit for what affects them. And then there's a whole committee that gets together. It's a committee of, I think there's 7 of them, that will make the final recommendation to the Board of Managers. And then the Board of Managers votes. There's 53 voting members, 53 on a board that votes. And then it'll be implemented in the 26-27 school year.
Can you walk us through the chronology of where it starts, the steps, who it gets to, so people can understand? It starts right here, then it goes to here, then it goes to here, then it goes to here. Like, where does it start? You say we submit.
Yeah, so basically a school can submit a proposal, and there's a couple of those that were submitted. I think there's 14 proposals. A school can submit, a league can submit, a conference can submit, a district can submit. You could submit and request that all your district schools are in the same league. But ultimately, the committee is in place to make the determination of what's in the best interest of the entire section. And, everybody's kind of got their own ideas. And, I always look at it like if you can get in your conference to so we have 20-ish schools and then 4 female sport reps. If you can get to a, 20-4 vote for a league, for your 4 leagues, you did pretty well. This year, ours was 22-1 or 20-1. We only had 1 dissenting vote on the leagues that we're presenting from the South Yosemite Conference. I'm
going to come back to you. The Dean of Local Sports, Greg Kerr, you've been through a few of these. You've seen a few of these restructuring, and you're already hearing things from all the travels that you make through the week, but this is nothing new to you, but always kind of interesting, isn't it?
It is, and when you get my age, you forget what leagues they used to be in and what leagues they're in now, and so, yeah, you still call them Southwest Yosemite sometimes, so, yeah, they've been bouncing around a lot. I was up in Lake Isabella about 3 weeks ago, and one of the officials up there was telling me about Kern Valley and their intentions to move to the horizon, and BHS back to the river, so, they mentioned a couple others, too, that I'm not remembering at this point in time. But I think a lot of it, again, is sort of what the model was the last time, Stan. You could correct me if I'm wrong, of trying to get teams that just have like profiles together. I think the Horizon League is a good example of that in terms of not only geographic footprint, but also just the, schools that have a certain amount of roster size and maybe have the same challenges, if you will, or advantages in some cases. And so I think that's what you guys have done and done very well.
Trevor, and I think. I think what you see too is because of so it used to be in the playoffs where number 1 in this league played number 2 in that league in the section, and then they expanded the playoffs, and then we started having divisions. And so what you're seeing is this movement towards leagues by division, which it probably won't happen in my time in this job, and it probably won't happen in your time in this job, or maybe Vance's, But I feel like probably in the next cycle, you may even see it leagues by division by sport. So your girls basketball team might be in a different division or a different league than your boys basketball team. That's really where it's heading ultimately. And it's all driven by divisional playoffs. So, yeah, that's kind of what you see. Ideally it's scope a program, but ultimately you want your kids to all compete in an environment that they have a chance for success, not guaranteed success, but a chance. And whereas, You might be in this league for football. That might be a great football league, but it might not be a great baseball league for you. And I think you're going to see that. The Coast already does that.
So is that code that you and I are retiring soon? Is that what that was?
See how we threw that out there? Man. Well, let's go to the young guy then. Trevor.
Yeah, my name never got mentioned.
Trevor is someone that succeeds at digging down into the minutia of these kind of things. I'm very interested in your perspective on the realignment proposals.
It's just really difficult because me being in a different chair for the previous 5 years and, somewhat similar to the chair that Stan sits in now, is that you don't just look at football or basketball or baseball. You got to figure everything out. You've got certain schools that are really good at what I like to call the Olympic sports or the country club sports. And then you got some that, are really good at soccer because of the regions of the city that they live in. And so it is very difficult to do that. So I really do think that, and this is the first time I've heard this out of your mouth, Stan, is I really like the idea of leagues based on what sports you're good at. But I think it's also very difficult to do that when you have high schools because there's ebbs and flows with everything, with talent levels that come in and come out from certain junior highs. When there's a realignment and a boundary and it changes who gets moved into those schools, that kind of changes the whole thing. And you have to look at all of that, Stan, and I'm sorry you have to do that.
Well, it's very problematic for us to get to that point.
Was I wrong on any of that, by the way?
No, you're right on all of that.
Thank you.
It's very problematic for us to get to that point with leagues by sport because of transportation.
Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts by sport.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you do it by sport, and your girls' soccer team might be going to whatever, McFarland, and your boys' basketball team going here, and your boys' soccer team going. And so all of a sudden, you've got 4 different sports teams at 4 different locations on the same night.
As an athletic director, I would not want that because that's just fielding 15 extra calls per day. But wait, why is boys basketball going here, but this or that? And then you have to answer those questions too. And I'm not saying that's a reason to not do it, but that's just another headache along the long lines of things that are headaches right now.
2030, 2034.
Okay.
I also think there's certain things are cyclical too in terms of what the strengths and weaknesses of your team in certain sports. And what's to say that some 6'10" kid's not going to move into school number 3 who hasn't been very good in basketball, and they're maybe in a lower league, and the 6'10" kid moves in. What do you do now?
Yeah.
So, there's obviously problems that can come with it as well.
Or you get a basketball coach that leaves a college job and goes to a school that is historically not very good at a certain sport, and now they're historically good in that sport.
Wow. Well, Stan, is there any possibility? Well, let me ask you this first. Are these meetings live streamed?
No. We don't want them live. I think that this one, years ago, there was a couple that were pretty contentious.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, at least from our area down here, I don't see anything being contentious. I think that everyone kind of agrees with, what's been out there. I mean, it's no secret that Kern Valley's talked about coming down and joining one of the leagues, and we fully support that. Even if Kern Valley wasn't a Kern High School District school, it just makes sense. I know McFarland has requested to come down here as well or to get into another league, and McFarland kind of makes sense. And then we moved around, Foothill wants to move, you look at our leagues, you kind of look at them 1, 2, 3, 4, and Foothill says, hey, we'd like to move up a league. And then we've got a couple schools that need to move down a league. And we just want the kids to be challenged and have an opportunity for success. And I think that's why the vote was 20-1. And the one dissenting vote, if I remember right, was one of our own schools that wanted to be in the top league. And so, that was just a matter of that person just, fighting for what they thought they wanted their school, but it wasn't really a no vote.
Quick reminder on the date line on all this.
Yeah, so it's Thursday. Excuse me. Thursday is the initial proposal.
Thursday.
Yeah, and then it kind of goes. There's a couple more meetings to iron out stuff. So Thursday is the time where they throw up all 14 proposals, and they go, okay, Greg, you're representing McFarland High School. Why did you give this proposal?
Right.
It's basically a first read.
Yeah, it's a first read, and so you get up and justify why you're asking for what you're asking. Yep.
Stan, what do you find the history of being teams that want to move up or teams that want to move down?
It's kind of just like our divisions and playoffs. It's a fight to the bottom a lot of times, and which I'm really disappointed in. But this time in particular, I feel like we've had a fight to move up. Bakersfield High School wants back in that league that they got out of and requested to be out of the last time. Independence wanted in the league, but in the top tier league, which is mainly D1. But they don't play D1 playoffs in any sports, but they wanted to be in that league. That's not one of the proposals from us. So I think it's gotten a little better where people want to compete. I remember a few years ago, we sat around in the AD room and we said, man, are we really listening to people fight about I'm worse than you are? And I didn't hear a lot of that this time. I heard a lot of, yeah, that makes sense that you want to be in that league. I can support that.
Yeah.
All right, so remember that we're talking about this on our 17th show, because on our very first show, we talked about the different playoff structures on the very, very first show, and we said it's going to come back, and we'll talk about it later. Well, that's going to be in the third quarter. We will talk about playoffs. We're going to talk about league standings in the second quarter, but we're still in the first quarter. Trevor, let's talk about tennis and volleyball.
We have tennis ends this week, and the playoffs get seeded this weekend and start next week. So we're looking at tennis right now, and we've got two of the top four teams in the Central section uses UTR, Universal Tennis Rankings, for seeding the playoffs. And right now, Liberty is number 2 in the Central section behind San Luis Obispo. Arroyo Grande is 3, and then Stockdale is number 4. Those two play on Thursday for the River League Championship, and really who's going to get that 2 seed and who's going to be able to, likely go too slow for the section championship, much like Liberty did last year, much like Garces Memorial did the year before, 2 years before that. What is really interesting to me in the top 10, and I've never seen this before, there's only one Clovis Unified school in the top 10 in girls tennis in the Central section, and that's Clovis East at number 7. No Buchanan, no Clovis North, no Clovis West, just Clovis East. Never seen that before. It's always usually 2 teams from the River League and the track, and then we've added these coastal teams in, and SLO has really been one of the top programs year in and year out since they've come in the Central section. So those playoffs will get seeded out later. East, who's still undefeated at, I think, 25-0 right now, which is phenomenal. They're ranked 14th overall. Bakersfield High is ranked 21st, and Golden Valley is ranked 23rd. So we've got local teams that look like they're going to do some damage in girls tennis playoffs. Volleyball starts the second to last week of the regular season tonight. I will be at Independence at Ridgeview in a Valley League showdown. But you look at the River, the league championship will come down to Wednesday night when Liberty, ranked number 2 overall, heads to Centennial, which is number 4 overall for the league championship. Liberty won that in the thriller that we saw right here on the Kern High Network 2 weeks ago. Absolute thriller of a game in 5 sets. Likely probably going to get something similar to that. How about this? The River League is the only section. Now, I know there's only 5 teams, so, the track could say, well, we've got 6 members, but they're the only league that has all members in the top 25 in the Central section. Garces is 16th, Frontier's 19th, Stockdale's 20th, so all in the top 20, which is good for them. And then the Valley, that league will come down to regular season finale next Thursday, BCHS and Independence. BCHS still undefeated. Independence still only has the 1 loss to the Eagles earlier this year. Horizon will come down to Arvin and Golden Valley on Thursday. Arvin's undefeated. Golden Valley's got the 1 loss to Arvin, so that'll come down if Arvin wins it or if they split. Same thing with the Mountain Division. That'll come down to Thursday. West is still undefeated. Tehachapi's got the 1 loss to West. And then the same thing in the SSL. Shafter's still undefeated in there, and they're going to play at Shafter against Wasco, who's 8-1 in league. So got a lot of great volleyball over the next 2 weeks. A lot of tennis. Actually, 3 matches this week for tennis because there were a couple cancellations with the heat waves earlier in the year, so they got 3 matches this week. And so we've got playoffs. We're already talking about playoffs, and then next week we're going to dive more into water polo, cross country, and girls golf.
Thank you, T. Horn. That's a lot. We'll be back with the second quarter in the huddle right after this.
Hey, we'll talk at the very end.
Valley Strong's youth accounts help kids practice earning and spending in the real world.
So, my rate for dishes is going up with inflation.
Oh, is it?
Blame the economy.
Because when we plant financial literacy young, it grows the rest of their lives. Valley Strong's youth accounts teach kids how to save and earn interest on their hard-earned money.
Hey! You should be earning interest on your savings. Make the money work for you.
Because when we plant financial literacy young, it grows the rest of their lives.
Welcome back to the second quarter of In the Huddle. Big weekend last weekend. Big weekend. I was on the road, but I tried to capture as much as I could on my phone or my laptop. Big weekend. Mr. Kerr, synonymous with doing about 200 miles a weekend within one county from north, south, east, west. You could see that vehicle of yours crisscrossing Kern County. How was your weekend, brother?
It was good, actually. A Thursday game, I went to Independence for their game against Ridgeview. Probably not the prettiest game in the world, but Independence did come out on top in that one, 21-12. They were up by 2 at halftime, 14-12, stayed that way until the final minute of the game. Ridgeview certainly had their chances, and I tell you what, Nathan Claunch's team, I know they're fighting to get wins and things of that nature on the field. I think they got one via forfeit, but they don't play like a team that's searching for their first win on the field.
That's good.
They play hard. It was a rivalry game, too. Mm-hmm. So you could see that. It felt like a rivalry game. For all the sins of the Independence offense and special teams, for that matter, their defense stepped up in a big way to secure that win. So 21-12, Independence. They certainly missed a couple guys with injuries over at Independence, and it shows in their offense a little bit. But they had just enough to pull out a victory there on Thursday. Friday, I was at the South game, and Josh Encinas to Jairo Hazley is a underestimated duo out there. Those guys fling it. They've connected for 5 TDs in the last 2 weeks. They'll continue doing it, and they've got, Encinas' brother is out there running around, A.J. Jones. They've got some weapons over there at South High, and their defense is playing pretty good too. So, I think South to Kerry Mills hates this, but it's looking ahead. But South to Hatchby should be a whale of a game.
Yep. Looking forward. Trevor, in just a minute, we're going to let you take off on this. But Stan, big weekend for you. Saw you a lot. Saw you around. Tell them about your weekend.
Well, I'd like to talk about that South High game. I would have loved to have thrown to that Heasley kid, man. He's a big old dude, and he just looks good.
Yeah.
He looks good. He had some nice catches in that game. That was cool. Yeah, it was a great weekend for me. I mean, I love Thursday night. I went to the game of the year. Maybe the game of the last 2 years. BHS Centennial. That was crazy good football game. One of those games you just didn't want to end. Ooh. And it was just a great game. And I don't think either one of them got hurt. I think obviously BHS didn't. They're undefeated.
Neither one of them moved in the rankings.
Yeah, and Centennial, that didn't hurt them at all. I think if they'd have won, it might have hurt them. They might have been in the D1AA.
What hurt is losing the quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah, Jet Santiago going down for the year. I mean, he's going to have surgery, I think, tomorrow.
That's
to repair the bone.
That's a horrible loss for them.
Yeah.
All right, Trevor, take that segue. Hit the road. Let's go.
Best Thursday night of the year for Kern County football by far. And, we had 4 games for the district, and it was Miramonte getting the first league win over Golden Valley. So it was a big win for the Lions. It was Independence getting their first league win for Paul Gola and beating Ridgeview and not being the first team to lose to a winless team. You never want to be that team, right, Greg? I mean, especially this late in the season. And then the Liberty Frontier game coming down to a last-minute touchdown for the Patriots with Emiliano Witten scoring it in from, I think, the 2-yard line. But it was the pass from Rob Smith that set that whole thing up, where the receiver was double covered and he juggles the ball, falls onto his back, and then is able to corral the ball at the 2-yard line, and that set it up. And obviously, that was a point where Frontier had the lead at that point. Yeah. So I mean, that one comes down to the last minute, and then the one that the 3 of us were at, which was BHS beating Centennial 22-21, where it came down to some personal foul calls there after the touchdown that made it 21-20, that gave the Drillers the opportunity to go for 2 instead of kicking the one, because Rashawn Shee said afterwards, he goes, no, if we were gonna line up normally, we were going to kick it and go for the tie and go into the second overtime, which is what we all wanted because, like we said, it was an instant classic game, and it was one of those games that you really didn't want it to end because you wanted to see who was going to come out on top at the end. Obviously, the Drillers came out on top. Centennial's playbook got cut in half when Jet Santiago went down, but I want to talk about the grit of Jet Santiago. The fact that he went down, he had to be carried off by Steven, the athletic trainer there. The fact that his dad was like, I don't know if he should go back in, but Jet's like, I don't care what you say, I'm doing it. I'm going in. Yeah. And that was the decision he made. Even stared at one point. He was like, I got to really kind of like look at the kid, but the kid never wavered. And stood tall, and even though he was not mobile, he still stood in that pocket and did his job and threw some nice passes there in the second half.
Well, when you're from Arvin blood,
that's it,
and you're cut from the loins of Hernan Santiago, it's just not in your DNA. I mean, I think that kid would have gone out there if they chopped off his leg.
Yeah.
And kudos to Coach Sterrett because I was standing right there by you, and I saw what went down between. Yep. Jet and Hernan and Coach Sterrett. And Coach Sterrett, I don't think he wanted to play him, and he made him run some mock plays on the sideline. And, he looked hobbled, but, we don't have x-ray machines.
No.
And, the kid went out and toughed it out, and, I mean, that's a tough kid right there.
Yeah.
That's two top players. Sorry, Vance. That's two top players that we've seen go off with the same type of injury. Ricky Johnson did the same thing for Independence in week 3. He had a broken bone in his leg, and he played the entire second half of that game as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just think about Kern County, just the Kern High School District alone. You've got the Shafter quarterback goes out with an injury, changes how they're playing for the year. Unfortunately, they've been able to survive it. Campbell goes out at Frontier.
Well, both Campbells, the quarterback and the center.
Yeah. And you got Ricky out at Independence, and now Jet. And, I mean, I'm probably missing 20
Matt
of them.
Maldonado, the middle linebacker that had the car accident 3 weeks ago for Liberty. Or Brady Durkin, who didn't did he even play a game this year before he had to have the Tommy John surgery? I mean, you're talking about.
And he's a heck of a baseball player.
Yeah, and he's going to miss his senior year in baseball, which is a complete bummer. But, I mean, you look at all those things. That's adversity, real life adversity that's hitting all these kids in these programs right in the face.
Yeah, it's
on incredible. A quick different note. Shout out to Jack Hopkins for saving the day.
That's what I was
with
gonna
a bad
say.
Snap in the fourth quarter on a punt.
My goodness!
That somehow, some way, did not flip the field. That would have been Centennial in field goal range with the game tied at 14.
Well, he pinned him back to the 18. That was the incredible part about it.
I wasn't there, so I don't know where it landed.
It landed on the 18.
On our field, did it?
Yeah.
Okay. But that was a heck of a play.
The punt heard round the world.
Right?
Oh
my gosh,
that was a great play.
How he got that punt off was
went right between two guys.
Beyond me.
Yeah.
Well, and how loud was the stadium? I've never heard so many cheers for a punt in my life.
Yeah, that ball went over his head and came right where I had been standing the whole game, and they had three kids on him. 3 kids on him, and somehow he gets it off. And usually when that happens, it's a 15-yard punt. Yeah. No. Oh, so it must have went 50 yards.
That's what I was going to bring up. Great minds think alike, Greg. And the one point I want to make about the great Jack Hopkins was that we had selected our player of the game already because the game was coming to a frenetic end in overtime, and it all just kind of collapsed in about 15 seconds with all the calls and everything. So we didn't make the presentation on air that our player of the game was the dynamic running back Abbott, who picked up like 3 crucial first downs late in the game and then had the run to go in. However, having said all of that, if there were ever co-MVPs or co-players of the game, Jack Hopkins certainly deserved that. And I remember, Cornford and I were looking at each other up top after he got the punt off. Like, that may come back to be a critical play. So, great game. All right, it's Friday night, Trevor.
Kern Valley now 1-0 in High Desert League. 2-0. Great game. They were able to get the lone touchdown in that game, and they were able to get the victory over Rosamond in a very low-scoring game, 7-6. Shafter went up to Delano in a must-win game for the Tigers, and Shafter took them, just started that game and never looked back in a 41-13 win. And that was a victory for the Generals at 41-13. Stockdale came back, scored a fourth-quarter touchdown. Great game by the freshman Mackey at quarterback. God, he had that one play, Greg, where he put his hand in the dirt and didn't fall to the ground, picked himself back up and scored a touchdown. Stockdale defeated Garces 19-14 to Tehachapi. That run game for the Warriors is something else right now, and they've got a quarterback that can throw the ball really well, and it's almost a dynamic offense. So the 48-7 win over North. Arvin with another great victory. This one to open up league play for them. Defeated Del Oro. Arvin's now 4-3, 1-0 in league. And they got a big game coming up Friday night at Golden Valley.
Game of the week.
Kern High Network. West gets their first league win, beating Foothill 20-7. Great win for the Vikings.
That is a big win.
And they are now playoff eligible. BCHS in a game that was tight early on, 10-10 at one point, and then BCHS just kind of ran away with this over Highland in a 47-10 win. Wow. And then the game that Greg spoke about, and the game that was our Kern High Network game of the week, and what a great afternoon at South High. That was a lot of fun. Vance, we did miss you, but I know how much of a weekend that you had, and I know how much you enjoyed being with your kids all weekend.
I saw notes from Mr. Minderborough about what a stellar job you did, and once I turned it on and saw Greg on the set, I said, man.
The energy level out of you was phenomenal.
I said, I lost the gig. I've lost the gig. Hey, Kerr's in there, I'm out.
Kids keep you young. That's what it is. Kids keep you young.
Third quarter coming up right after this in the Huddle. Hope you're having a good time with myself and these three superstars. Back right after this.
Valley Strong's youth accounts help kids practice earning and spending in the real world.
So, my rate for dishes is going up. With inflation.
Oh, is it?
Blame the economy!
Because when we plant financial literacy young, it grows the rest of their lives. Valley Strong's youth accounts teach kids how to save and earn interest on their hard-earned money.
Hey! You should be earning interest on your savings. Make the money work for you.
Because when we plant financial literacy young, it grows the rest of their lives.
Welcome back to the third quarter of In the Huddle. As we were going to break, I caught the breaking news. The breaking news that Greg Kerr was dancing on the set at South High School. Stan.
Not only that, he stopped the show and turned around and asked the band to start up a number real quick. And then I felt like I was at Dancing with the Stars.
Did you go to Popeyes before the show?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he bring you any Popeyes?
No. He brought it for the
kids.
kids.
I brought sandwiches to kids who caught the football. I threw footballs in the stand.
An old hometown football they was throwing. It was the energy level. So, you're done, dude.
Oh, look.
Well, you spoke of all the injuries this year to the football players. When I danced, I came up with a hip injury.
Did you have to go to therapy between 3 and 7 p.m. that night?
All right. Greg's dancing, bringing food. I lost the gig. I'll start setting my tee times for Friday. Third quarter.
Break that streak.
Playoff projections as it stands. That's the notes we have here for D1AA and D1A. Playoff projections. You know, they always do the way too early things. This is not way too early. We are right around the corner, T-Horn. Oh, Stan, go for it.
First, let's make sure that everybody understands in our infinite wisdom, not mine, ours in the state, CIF, 1AA is the top division.
Yes.
1A is the second division. So
it's the same way that they do the state, so I get it.
I know.
I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to point it out because people, it gets confusing. You know, you start saying 1AA, you think it's less. No, in the CIF state for football, 1AA is the very top group.
Just think minor league baseball. AAA is higher than AA. AA is higher than single A.
So that's where it came from.
Double Alpha is the top standings. Trevor, put on the gas. Let's go.
All right, so not much has really changed since we talked about this 3 weeks ago, but right now, the top 4 seeds in 1AA as it sits. And now these are, just so everybody understands, this is directly from CalPrep's rankings, which is going to be the number one criteria for how they seed things. There is no guaranteed home game for league champs or any of those other conversations come out. Now, if there is a league champion over a non-league champion that's at the top of the seed, this is coming directly from the Central Section office, then it'll become a conversation topic if you need to flip it over what the CalPreps ranking says. But if it comes down to a couple of teams that are at the bottom half of the bracket, that's not going to matter. The head-to-head will matter. The strength of schedule will matter. The CalPreps rankings will matter. That's what's going to matter. So right now...
And by the way, we don't have a slide up, everybody. So if you're looking for a slide, we don't have it up. We're going to have to give these to you audibly.
Yep. So right now, the top 4 teams in the Central section and in the 1AA ranking, if the season we're in today, would be Clovis North, still undefeated.
Good idea.
Still undefeated. Here you go.
Why not?
Nobody wants to see my face anyway. Here you go.
That's good.
Yeah. So Clovis East, I think, ranked number 22 in the state right now. They're the number 1 seed, and they're obviously projected to win all 3 of their final games. Clovis North, number 2, Clovis, number 3, Central, number 4. Right now, Hanford, because of their strength of schedule, is still higher than what BHS has. A 7-0 Hanford team is 5th. A 7-0 BHS team right now is 6th.
Wow.
Now, that is because of the strength of schedule as it sits right now. CalPreps doesn't predict the strength of schedule for the whole season. They only show the strength of schedule up to the games that are being played, just so everybody understands. So we'll get into that minutia in just a little bit. Buchanan right now at 6-1. They are 7th, and Liberty at 4-3 and 1-0 in league are 8th. That's 1AA. If the season ended today and we were only going off of CalPreps.
Woo. Hey, so do you know off the top of your head, and I don't know this, is Tulare Union's base, are they base 2?
They are base 2.
So did they send a box of chocolates to BHS today for winning?
Clovis East is base 2 right now.
Right, but I think that they should be sending something to BHS for winning that game because they would probably be the 8 seed, right?
Probably.
In 1AA?
Probably, yes.
Okay,
well, here's the thing. I'm going to get into this in just a little bit because it's going to, in what I see a lot of things changing. So the 1A right now would be Tulare Union, Sanger, Frontier right now, Clovis West, Arroyo Grande, Centennial, San Joaquin Memorial, and St. Joe's.
Okay, stop right there. Hang on to your thoughts. Stop right there. Greg, anything you see in 1AA bracket before he gets deep into
well, as I told Trevor before the show started, this thing just gives me a headache looking at it. I was just trying to figure out all the computations of 3 weeks of woulda, coulda, shoulda type that could happen, obviously. I would just say that BHS, by virtue of their next game, if they win that one, things will change because that's a stronger game than any. Hanford, they play what? Western, Mission Oak, and Lemoore? So
the Tulare Western game is a trap game for them and for Tulare Union.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Yep. But I just think the BCHS game will change things next week if BHS wins that.
And that's why I wanted to say that the CalPreps rankings do not factor in games that have not yet been played. They only factor in the games that have been played. So it will change it.
Okay, T-Horn 1A.
Okay. So, we just went over the 1A.
Right.
So let's go back to the one where I see 1AA ending. I don't see any change in the top 3, Clovis East, Clovis North, and Clovis. All of them are going to do what they need to do. There isn't like Clovis East and Clovis North are going to play. Clovis East is going to be the favorite. Hanford right now, they're still favorited in all of their games. So I have them still going 10-0. But that the Tulare Western game is a trap game for them. As is Bakersfield Christian to an extent is a trap game this week. It is a game that might be a toss-up for the Drillers, but I have both of them going 10-0, so neither one of them are changing. What I see changing is Central losing to Clovis and dropping, and maybe and dropping one because they already have 2 league losses. So if they lose a third one, they go 2-3 in the track. I don't see how a Liberty team who is now with Jet Santiago out, now favored against Centennial, Garces, and Stockdale, not winning out, being 7-3 and a league champ. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where you're going to see Liberty jumping to Buchanan, because I don't see Buchanan winning against Clovis North, Clovis East, or Central. They're not going to be favored in all of those games. So Buchanan's going to go from 6-1 likely to 6-4, go 1-4 in that league. So you're going to see some changes there. So the way I look at it, it's going to go Clovis East, Clovis North, Clovis, Hanford, BHS, Central, Liberty, and then Tulare Union. So what we're looking at is a possibility of Clovis going, Bakersfield being 10-0, but going up and playing at Clovis and playing Deegan Rose, in Oregon. I think he's an Oregon State commit now, but he's a phenomenal junior quarterback, going up and playing at LaMonica Stadium. Liberty staying at the as it sits, they would move to the 7 and they would play at Clovis North. But I see a Liberty team moving up. Now here's what I got here. Tulare Union is favored in all three of their final games. I see Buchanan dropping down, Tulare Union moving up into 1AA and being the 8th seed and having to go to Clovis East. So you talk about handing them a box of chocolates. I don't think it's going to happen that way. I think they may end up in that 8th seed if everything goes as the seedings show them.
Well, so much could happen. I mean, Greg's been around long at these rivalry games, like Tulare Western.
Yeah, you never know.
No doubt.
You never know.
And I'll say this too, and I don't know what the answers are right now at Centennial after Jet Santiago, but they can make their own bed too. They got games with Liberty and Frontier.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
And they can make a move with victories, even though they won't be favored in either one right now without Jet. Because that's a good program. They got some talent over there. Take Jet off the field. I know that's the trigger guy, but they still got Jason Grant. They still have Caden Howard. They still have Roland Myers. They have a lot of talent over there at Centennial, and they're not going to just roll over.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see. And their game against Liberty's at home, so we'll see.
And then here's another factor, too, when you look at Clovis West. They're only at 3 wins right now, and they're not favored to win in any of their final 3 games. So they may end up 3-7 and 0-5 in the track. Does the school say we only won 3 games, we shouldn't be going to the playoffs, or we won 3 games, we're eligible, we're going? And then then what do you do with them? Do you take a team that is currently sitting around like 13th place, 13th overall? Do you drop them down to D2, or do you make them the bottom seed in 1A? That's another question that you have to look at too. What do you do with a track team that's 3-7?
Well, I think the goal, unless I'm mistaken, all along with this was to fill the 1AA and 1A brackets. You don't have an option, was the way I understood it.
No, but you could pull somebody else up. What if Bullard is a little bit better?
Well, that's
straight off the
That's
rankings,
the conundrum here, though.
It is.
Because I don't know the answer to what I'm about to ask is, when they look at a body of work, are they going to say, you played better than this team, so we're not going to make you an 8 seed in AA. We're going to reward you and put you as a 1 or 2 seed in single A. And the team that did not achieve its goals, you're going to be the fodder in AA as an 8 seed. So will they give a team with a worse record an 8 seed in Division AA and a team with a better record actually a 1 or 2 seed in single A?
My understanding is they're lined up according to Cal Preps.
Yeah.
1 through 123, and if you're
higher, you're
higher. If you're higher, you're up. Now the only thing is you can't skip more than one base.
Exactly.
Right.
So you have
but if you're there, that's who you're playing. The only caveat to it, like the way it's set up now with Frontiers 3 and Centennial 6, and there's still 3 weeks left. Like they could switch those schools because they play week 11, if you will. And so that could be switched and justified, but they can't just determine that, hey, your body works better, so you're going to move.
Yeah.
Well, and you also got to factor in all of the D3 base teams that are in between a lot of those D1 and D2s that they can't move up to 1A or 1AA. So, you're looking at as far down, Bakersfield Christian, you're looking at
Highland was in there.
Golden West right now, who's 6-1. They're at 16th, and they can't move up. Sunnyside, who's 5-2, but 7-0 on the field.
Shafter was in there as a D4.
Shafter is a D4. You've got, Central Valley Christian, Tulare Western, Garza out of Fresno. All of these teams, Lemoore, these are all the teams where you're going, well, why don't we just throw them in there? You can't.
Yeah.
Because that's not what the bylaws are.
Well, and the intentions, intentions are to fill those brackets. And I can tell you, if you look at it from a base D2 school or a base D3 school, you're not going to be okay with anything being violated and moving a team down. You're going to fill those top 2 brackets.
Yeah. Well, and think about what we were talking about with Bullard when they played the Drillers 4 or 5 weeks ago. And now look at Bullard now. They can make some headway because they're 4-3. They've won 4 in a row, and their only losses are to Clovis, BHS, and Sanger, who are all right now 1AA teams.
What I can tell you is this.
We got a lot of football still to play.
College football went from bowl games, the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Everything Bowl, to a 4-game playoff. And now they're at a 12-game playoff. So to say this is malleable and continuing to move around is an understatement. I love this stuff. Love hearing your minds and your guys' experience talk about this. We still have 3 weeks left. Anybody that's watching this, don't get too worked up. There's still a lot of time left, but a lot of work was put in to kind of set the table, because now this coming Thursday and Friday night, when everything starts to unravel and all these games start to play, we've done a lot of the legwork to put the pieces together. When we come back, we will close off In the Huddle, our 17th show. Can't believe it, right after this.
Valley Strong's youth accounts help kids practice earning and spending in the real world.
So, my rate for dishes is going up. With inflation.
Oh, is it?
Blame the economy.
Because when we plant financial literacy young, it grows the rest of their lives. Valley Strong's youth accounts teach kids how to save and earn interest on their hard-earned money.
Hey! You should be earning interest on your savings. Make the money work for you.
Because when we plant financial literacy young, it grows the rest of their lives.
Welcome back to the fourth quarter. In just a moment, gentlemen, I'm going to ask you for your final thoughts and what you look forward to this weekend. And in 30 seconds, I'm going to read you the league standings. Bishops in first place, tied with Kern Valley in the High Desert League. In the South Sequoia League, Shafter 2-0, tied with Kennedy at 2-0. Horizon League, Arvin tied with Foothill at 1-0. Mountain League, how about this? South and Tehachapi tied at 2-0. Greg talked about that. The Valley League, BCHS 2-0, Bakersfield 1-0, Independence 1-0, tied for first at the top. And in the River League, Centennial and Liberty tied at 1 apiece. Those are your league standings. No commentary, please, because I want your deepest, most sincere, most thoughtful, provoking commentary on what you're looking forward to this weekend. We will start with the Dean of Local Sports, Greg Kerr. What has you fixated this coming weekend? All
right, well, a couple things, but first of all, back to your college references. I think we need an edible Pop-Tart sponsor at one of the high school games too. So if we could if we're gonna expand things like the colleges, I'd love to see an edible Pop-Tart at one of our games.
Just please don't open a can of worms right now in the fourth quarter. That could go forever.
Okay. Liberty at Centennial is going to be very interesting to see what Centennial does without Jet Santiago. That's going to be very interesting. Obviously, BCHS is a huge game. And it's out of the current high school district, but a Thursday game, Kennedy at Shafter. That's going to be a big one as well. So I think those are three games that I would have my eyeballs on in terms of just what's standing there. So
did you just kick Shafter out of the current high school?
No, you know what I said as I said that, I said no, it's just Kennedy. So I stand corrected there.
Between Greg kicking them out and Trevor every week doing something on their graphics.
I thought Hafter was in here. It wasn't Shafter.
The oil derrick. I mean, between you two guys, look, Shafter. Stan
hey, Shafter. All love to you, man. All love to Shafter.
Trevor, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Two things. I love this Arvin Golden Valley game on Friday night.
That's another one. Very
for the
good.
Horizon League. It may end up being the game of the year for that league. So, and then the other thing too is the River League and the complete quarterback change with all 5 programs this year, whether it's institutional of decision-making or injuries that have changed it. Every single one has made a quarterback change.
That's a great point.
And we talk about the River League being the power league in town. Well, the power league has to play power football now because there's just so many different changes. All of them have become run-heavy programs in order to win football games. And then the other thing, too, is I'm an Uncrustable fan over a Pop-Tart. So we can get those.
I told you, don't open a can of worms, Greg.
I'd rather go with an Uncrustable.
Well, I didn't know there were options. I was just going on, following...
If they made an Uncrustable with a lullaberry from
here
Avila Bar.
Here we go. Alex,
Okay.
I try to stay on target. I try to stay on clock, but it is what it is. Stan,
can we get a game live out there?
I'm going to have you close out because you got a officials class. There's a lot going on.
So you said two things though. I wrote a bunch.
Yeah, but Greg broke the rule. Trevor doubled down on breaking the rule.
Okay, so Centennial Liberty, BHS, Independence Highland, Game of the Week, Arvin at Golden Valley. I wish I could see all four of those.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's finally turned to my favorite part of the year where it's a little bit cooler. It kind of feels like fall, and we're rolling into playoffs and playoff implications, and I love it because as probably all four of us 100% for sure, we love to see competition at its highest level, and that's what we're going to get to see. And so crowning champions is my other one. If you want to be a basketball official, there is a meeting tonight at 6:30 at Olive Knolls. All are welcome. So if you want to be a basketball official, and we're paying more money this year too. So the money's there. Great group of guys. The SSJV BOA, Olive Knolls at 6:30 p.m. tonight. Those are my comments.
And that's something I can post. I can put that on social, right?
Absolutely. Put it up there.
Alex, thank you so much. Our director puts up with all of us. Hold on, yes?
It's going to be 72 degrees as a high on Friday.
And why are you talking like a DJ?
Because it makes me so excited. I didn't want to scream into the microphone.
Saturday Night Love Station. All right.
Sunday.
Okay, in the huddle, Friday, if we still have a gig, if we're still on, Arvin at Golden Valley, the Bulldog Land. That ought to be a ton of fun. That will be our live stream game of the week. Greg, thank you so much for everything you're doing. We know you got a big week ahead of you. Appreciate it. Trevor, as always, thank you for the heavy lifting and getting into what we really need to pull out. I really enjoyed that show. A lot of content there. Boss man, thanks for having us here. Have a great rest of the week. Big weekend coming up.
Hey, boss man, that was